Hello, my quilting friends. Leah Day here with episode 41 of the podcast. And today I'm chatting with Amy Helton. I ran across Amy on Instagram where her handle is Long Arm Yogi Gal. And that was it was interesting to me. So I asked her to come on the podcast and she was game. So we're going to talk about long arm quilting and how Amy got into that, which is a pretty interesting story. And then also about yoga, which is something I love to do and Amy does too. So I hope you're looking forward to this episode and meeting Amy and learning more about her. Now for some updates about what's going on around the house. We've just kicked off our 2018 machine quilting party. And this week I shared a post about preparing and cutting your fabric for the rainbow log cabin quilt. So this quilt along is really something you can follow along anytime. If you're already in the middle of several quilt projects, don't worry, you can always join in the fun later. But basically you can find out all the information about it at leahday.com/2018 party. So come and check that out. So Mondays we're going to share a post on the rainbow log cabin quilt. We're going to piece it all in one big piece and then quilt it together. On Fridays, we're going to be learning more about walking foot style quilting with new designs posted every week. And those designs can be put together and make an entirely different quilt called Marvelous Mosaic. So we're going to have 2 posts a week just on walking foot style quilting and creating these 2 beautiful quilts. So I hope that you'll come and join in the fun. The only thing that you need in order to join in this party and quilt along is a copy of my new book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day. And you can check it out at leahday.com/walkingfoot. Now, I have to say, we are out of print copies of the book right now. I'm sorry about that. It's just the normal stuff with inventory and getting stuff in at the end of the year. It's really tough. But you can find the book on Amazon. So just go to amazon.com anywhere in the world and search Explore Walking Foot Quilting and you should be able to find it. And it would also help me out a lot, no matter where you've bought your book from, to leave us a review. So definitely go and check that out at Amazon, leave a review for the book, and that really helps me out a lot because it helps the search ranking of the book, helps more people find it. So I really appreciate that, and I really hope that you'll join in the fun of this block party and learn more about walking foot quilting with me. I think that this is such an underrated form of quilting, and I have really enjoyed digging into it and learning more about it. Now, as for what else has been going on, I have been doing a lot of cleaning. In the last week of the year, I started pulling out all of my craft stuff, like every single thing I own, every box of yarn, every box of leather or fabric or whatever, all my miscellaneous craft supplies. Pulled it all out. I gave it one big giant once over as far as, kind of cleaning everything out, organizing it all, and then I put it all back away. And so right now the studio is cleaner than it probably has ever been. I'll probably shoot a studio tour actually at this point because it's so clean and neat. It looks amazing. And I have decided to keep it this way. One of my challenges for this year, my word of the year is challenge. And one of the challenges that I really like to keep up with is keeping a clean and neat space. So that way it's just easier to work. It's more relaxing to be downstairs. It's more relaxing to be in the space. And that way I can move forward on my goals and make beautiful things easier. I'm not constantly shifting one pile of stuff and another pile of stuff just to be able to find my table and be able to work. And then also working on one project at a time so that way I can get it done and clean up and then move to the next thing and be a lot more be a lot more organized about all of this and a lot less haphazard. A lot of times it feels like I've got all these balls in the air and they're all floating around in my head and I'm trying to keep everything on track. And I think if I spend just that little bit of extra time organizing and making sure that everything is kind of working in progression, and then of course cleaning up at the end of every day, I think that's really going to make a big difference. And I gotta say, at the end of the year, we made a business investment, and I never would have thought that this would be something that I would love so much. But I bought a little D-Bot. Now, a D-Bot is like a Roomba. It's a little robotic vacuum cleaner. And I would never have thought I would love this thing so much, but I am, honestly, it's like my best friend now. This little circular vacuum cleaner spins around and goes all around the basement and has cleaned up the floors so well. And just seeing it work around and how clean it gets the floors, I decided I wanted to pick up as much as I could off the floors. Now, in years past, I've been keeping lots of bins of fabric and stuff all over the floor. It's been kind of a dusty, messy mess, especially under my tables where I can kind of stash stuff and hide it and not have to clean it up. So I pulled all of that out, and now the floors are really easy to keep clean, and so there's a lot less dust. It feels so much nicer to be downstairs, and I never would have thought that that would make a big difference. But it's like every time I saw that my floors were dirty and I had like dust bunnies in the corners and stuff, every time I saw that, it was like a little stress tick, and it was just in the back of my mind like, oh God, that's so messy, you know? But now with D-Bot fixing, I mean, we've nicknamed him, Josh keeps saying it's a him, nicknamed him Dusty. So every time Dusty goes in and cleans, it's like it's all cleaned up and I don't have that little stressful tick anymore, that's constant like, ugh, it's just so messy down here. And it's also keeping my space cleaner and I think a lot healthier too. So I'm really tickled about this. I know it seems really silly to think a vacuum cleaner could make me this happy, but it actually has. I'll be honest, a little D-Bot. The reason we went with that instead of Roomba, I just read the reviews and this guy seemed like a good option and it wasn't super expensive, but certainly I would say 100% worth the investment because it's vacuuming and I don't have to touch it. We can schedule it to go and work and do its thing. It can spin around pretty much everything and it's only gotten stuck once under the couch. So I've been really, really pleased with this thing. So you'll probably be seeing a lot more photos of Dusty cleaning up my house. So another thing I wanted to say was a really big thank you to all of the supportive comments on last week's podcast. So definitely make sure to listen to that podcast. It's all about my word for the year, which is challenge in 2018. But I also talked a lot about what happened in the year before, in 2017, and my words for that year, and a lot of the changes that happened over the course of that year. And it was a lot more personal than, and I shared a lot of things that, can be scary to share. It's scary to open up online and you never know how people are going to react and what they're going to say. And so I really appreciate all of the supportive comments. A lot of people, they said that that was a challenge to share something so personal and that courage goes right along with that. And I love that. That really can become my second word of the year, have courage and take on the challenge. So I really sincerely appreciate all of that kindness and support that was shared. And I love to see more of that. It is scary to put yourself out there, but there is such a benefit to doing that. And this is something I come back to time and time again. And this is why I pulled out this quilt behind me. So if you are listening to the podcast and you can't see it, I'm sitting in front of my bright and glowing sun at the quilt that is Release Your Light. So you can come and learn more about this quilt at leahday.com/releaseyourlight, and you can read more about it. But this quilt is all about releasing your creative energy, but is also about sharing with an open heart, an open and willing heart. And this quilt, actually, I can definitely say I would not have started my business if I had not created this quilt. So come and read the story behind it. I love pulling it out at this time of the year because it's a reminder of why I make videos and kind of how I want to share videos more than just how to piece a 1/4-inch seam. I want to teach you how to make quilts that can change your life. And I really think that it's a powerful tool because, it's a way to stitch yourself back together again. It's a way to set yourself goals. By taking the steps to make an entire quilt, you can do amazing things. So, and another thing is it's really, really bright and cheerful, which is really helpful for January, which is always gray and kind of rainy. So I think you'll appreciate seeing this. So come and check out a photo in the show notes or at leahday.com/releaseyourlight. Now there's two things that I am actively working on in addition to the quilt along going on right now, and that is a new workshop. So I have realized that there were just so many questions that I receive on a weekly basis that have something to do with basting or batting or any of those kind of things that really go along with the middle layer of your quilt. So I finally decided to sit down and make a workshop that will answer all of those questions in one go. And I have a deadline. I want to get this done and ready for you by January 11th. So it's a tall order. I've got quite a few videos I need to film and a few things I need to try out and play with and a lot of photos to shoot. But I love the challenge of having that deadline and knowing exactly what I need to do and how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to be working on that all week, knocking that out, and Josh is helping me. I wrote the text of the workshop, and that's all ready to go, and he's going to be doing the layout. So that's basically just setting the text into the document, making sure the photos are lined up nicely, all that good stuff. It takes a lot of time, and I realized that Josh does a really good job on it. He's able to see how things look good together, so he's taken over that job, which is really helping me out a lot too. So be looking forward to that new workshop, and because I've told you about it, it has to be done by January 11th. The second thing I'm actively working on right now and so excited about working on is my fiction novel. So my book about a little girl and a quilt, it's a fantasy story. That is going really, really well. My goal is 1,000 words per day, and it's going to be done, if I keep up with that, by the end of January, which feels awesome. It's unbelievable, actually, that it would be done by the end of January, but I think it will be. So once we get it finished, then it'll be into editing and figuring out all that stuff. And then I'm going to design the cover art. I've kind of got a plan for that, but really my focus is just getting the text written and having it done by the end of January, and that feels awesome too. So it's a lot going on, but I love quilting this time of the year. It's the perfect time of the year to jump into a new project, even several new projects, and have a lot going on because, it's cold, it's rainy, it's wet, it's not the nicest time of the year, but it's a wonderful time to dig in and learn new skills for quilting. So I hope that you'll join in the machine quilting party, learn more about walking foot style quilting, or check out some of my other more artistic quilts. And you can check out my gallery with all of the quilts, well, most of the quilts that I've made at leahday.com/gallery. And now here's the episode with Amy Helton, all about quilting, yoga, and how she started her long arm quilting business. Hello, my quilting friends. Today I'm chatting with Amy Helton. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Amy Helton is a long arm quilter from Kentucky, and she shares her life and quilts on her Instagram channel as Long Arm Yogi Gal, and that's where I ran across her. So let's begin with what you're working on right now.
Oh, what I'm working on right now? A lot of things. I'm a member of the Art Guild in Berea, Kentucky, and Berea is known for their arts and crafts culture for many years. I think like 100 years they go back. So I'm a member of that, and they are doing an exhibit with fiber artists, and they asked me to participate. So I'm getting some things ready to go tomorrow, hopefully, and deliver those up there. So that's what's taken the front seat, and I've got lots of things. I've got some customer quilts that I need to get to, but other than that, that's my main thing right now.
So tell me about your long arm quilting business. Is it mostly local, or do you have people shipping quilts to you? How does that work?
I am working on expanding my, audience. I'm in a town that's very small. Not a lot of quilting going on, but I do have a handful of local people who come back to me. So that's always a good sign. When I started this, I had no experience, didn't know what I was doing. But my mom and dad had gotten into quilting as they retired, so I kind of got a taste for it, and they let me practice on some of their work. So from there, I've gotten a little bit of exposure, but I'd like to go a little bit farther from home and get some mail orders going and things like that. So that's the ultimate plan.
Excellent. So how did you get started? Like, what was the first thing you were like, okay, I'm going to become a long arm quilter?
Well, I had a job and I quit. And so that'll motivate you. It was one of those things. I have a degree in textiles and clothing design, and when I came out of college, that wasn't very useful because the market had just kind of gone overseas very quickly. So I spent a couple of years at Disney World doing costumes and things like that, which was a ball, and Universal Studios. But I didn't see myself staying there long and like raising a family there. So I ended up home and I worked for my family. They were a plumbing supply company, and so I worked for them. And then, you get married to have kids and you just kind of stay where you are. And that happened. And then I just wasn't, they had sold the business to a company from out of town, and it just didn't jive too much. So stayed there a long time, 7 years with those people, and then I just left. And so I thought, well, what am I going to do? So my dad had talked about, he was very mechanical, he's passed away since then, but he talked about these long arm machines, and he said, you need to get this, you can do this. And I'm thinking, I don't want to sew. I didn't want to sew for money, because once you do something for a living, you just, it kind of takes the passion away. So I thought, no, I don't want to do that. But then the day I quit, I thought, I think I'll buy a machine. So I had never seen one. I had never touched one. But I called the man. There's a dealer in northern Tennessee that's close to here. So I called and I said, get me a machine. And the rest is this. Here I sit. So while I waited for the machine, though, I researched long arm quilters to see what the heck I was going to do. You popped up. Judy Madsen popped up, Angela Walters popped up. So over and over, I kept seeing your all's work, and I thought, well, okay, I'll get a sketch pad. And I got a sketch pad, and I cannot draw. And I thought, okay, now what? But when the machine got here, I realized that fabric and thread were so much more forgiving than pencil and paper. So I just practiced, and here I am. So loving it. So I don't regret any of that.
That's wonderful. That's such an amazing story. So were you not making quilts beforehand?
No, I had never made a quilt. In fact, when my mom and dad retired, they wanted to travel, and so they happened upon quilt shops, and so they just started making these quilts, and we thought that was just the funniest thing, because my dad would cut and my mom would sew, and they would produce these incredible quilts, and it was just out of nowhere, because we really don't have a background for quilters in my family on either side, so it was just kind of a funny thing. But it's one of those things, once you start, you can't stop. It's just, you get into it, and it becomes a lot of what you do, so you know how it is.
Yes, it's addictive, most definitely. Excellent. So what was the machine that you ended up buying?
Oh, the machine. I can't wait to upgrade this machine. I have a Tin Lizzie 26, Ansley 26. And since I had never seen a machine, I didn't really have any comparison. And I bought it sight unseen and thought, well, okay, I'll start with this. And it's definitely a teacher of mechanics, because I think they're billed as the affordable machine on the market. And it was more affordable than the other ones, but that comes for a reason. Sincerely love my machine every single day, but it serves the purpose, and it's an excellent teaching tool. So I'm learning as I go, and that's just one of those things that it's on my list of things to buy is another machine. And so hopefully, once I work out the kinks with this one, I can, do much better with another machine. But we're good.
Yeah. Have you picked out your upgrade yet? What are you going to upgrade to?
Oh, I don't know. There's a dealer in Louisville who is an APQS dealer, and she has a once a month long arm quilting guild. People get together, and they have such positive energy, and so I love those machines. But I think I love it just because I love to go there. So I'm going to do some more research, go to some shows, and try some things out before I make a decision.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So what is your favorite style of quilt to work on?
Oof. Well, let's see. I don't know. It just, whatever's on the rack. They've all got a different personality, and they've all got pluses and minuses, and I do everything free motion. So everything is whatever I want it to be. And I think that's what I like about it, because I can do a traditional quilt, and be very happy with it. I can do a modern quilt and be very happy with it. It's just kind of like people. Everything has a perk. And I don't think I've produced one for a customer or for myself that I didn't love. So, anything goes. It's just, that's what I like about it. Every day is different, and there's something good about each one.
Excellent. So you don't have automation, like a computerized system on your machine?
No, that would be one more thing I would have to fix.
And do you quilt with rulers?
I do use rulers, yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Every now and then I'll put a needle through one, so I need to fix rulers. But yeah, I do that. I like to at least get the bones of a design, and then from there fill it in with whatever happens.
Cool. So I noticed one of the quilts that you posted to Instagram, which or I think this one was on Facebook, that I instantly fell in love with, and that was the whole cloth quilt that you've been working on. So you mentioned when you were working on it that you did not plan that, and you did not like design it from the beginning, and then that became a problem. So tell me about that whole project.
Okay, so that's what I'm going to do again. That was, you have this picture in your head, you see these great quilts, and you think, okay, I can figure that out. I'm just going to throw it on and go. Well, I did, and then I took it back off, and I thought, okay, I'm going to throw it on the table and at least draw the design and figure out what has to go on first, because you can't go from the center out or the outside in. You have to kind of build it, and whatever you want to pop out has to go on first, and then everything else has to go as though it's coming out from under it. So I was really pleased with the beginning, and then as I went out, I thought, I can't keep the momentum that I had established, because I was very, very detailed. And I was running out of time because I wanted that one to go to the guild show at Berea. So I ended up, it was going to be a throw, and I knew what I wanted it to look like. And so I did this awful, awful feather border, and it just looked very cartoony. It looked like the snail on SpongeBob, actually. So that's all I could see when I looked at the quilt, and I thought, you know what? That's going to be a great wall hanging. So I cut it off, and I put the binding on, and I thought, that's good enough for the first try. But for the next try, yeah, I would definitely recommend drawing that thing out however you want it to. You start with a basic shape, and then it evolves. I didn't want a whole lot of feathers, and I ended up with a whole lot of feathers. But it's one of those things, once you get in the mood, you kind of get in that mindset, and so I knew I wanted a lot of really tight filler just to see if I could, because it's so freeing to work on something for myself, because there is no expectation. I can always make it a dog blanket. It's okay. So it's just fun. You don't have any, you lose the fear. So that was a fun project. And that was a fast project. I think I quilted maybe for half of the day, 2 different days. So the ones like that with no pressure are the ones that just kind of flow out the needle, and everything kind of worked there.
I am amazed that you got that done that quickly. I've made 3 whole cloth quilts, or actually I've made a few more than that, but like as far as like big whole cloth quilts, and on a whole machine it is so much more time consuming. And that's the thing I'm realizing about quilting on a frame. Have you ever quilted on a whole machine to have a comparison?
I have no idea how anybody quilts on a home machine. There is a lady locally, and I've seen her work, and she does such intricate, gorgeous, big quilts, and they're all on a home machine, and I'm just in awe, because there's no way I could. And I think that's why I don't like to sew, because if you don't have enough space to move and things are pulling to one direction, and there's just not enough space. So I like being able to stretch it out on a frame, and everything's right where you left it. But yeah, on a home machine, that's got all my admiration. I do not do it.
Yeah, I do think that your setup is absolutely key, and that's big thing that I'm always talking about is not just the machine and the size of the machine, it's the setup that goes around it, the table you put it in. And honestly, a good home machine setup is about the same space as a long arm takes up. So it's still a space investment either way. So do you make a living at this? Is this, what you do all day?
This is what I do all day. I'm not making a living yet, but the goal is to produce enough of an income to not have to do anything else. I substitute teach in the schools locally, but that's not my calling. I don't really, because I will go from a preschool class to a high school class to anything in between. You have to switch your whole thinking. And so my goal is to not have to do that. So I would love to make this my livelihood. Yes.
Excellent. So you don't have a favorite type of quilt, but I have a wonder, do you have a least favorite type of quilt or a least favorite type of quilting design?
Let me think. I did a Baptist fan one time at the request of a customer, and yeah, no, that was my least favorite because I couldn't figure out how to. I had to draw it, and then I had to sew it, and so it took forever, and it ended up being a very basic look. So the time investment with that, I don't ever want to do one of those again. It looked good, but it took me probably, I don't know, a week, maybe a little bit more than that, because I had to go through the whole process twice. And then by the time you get to the bottom of the quilt, that disappearing ink is disappearing. So you go back. But yeah, so that's the one quilting design that I didn't really love. And I don't like stock things. I'll buy patterns as far as a quilt goes, and I'm not going to make that. And I know I'm not going to make it when I buy it, but I like the quilt. But once I see something done, I don't want to do something, identical. I want my own thing. So I will take something and kind of make a variation of it. But I don't like any. Now let me clarify. I love some of the stuff that I see. But once it's done, I want something different. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. You want to put your own design and style on it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed looking through all of your photos. You tend to quilt fairly dense for a long armor and custom quilting too. So tell me about that. Like, how do you manage the time? Because obviously it's a lot more thread and a lot more time to do that dense quilting on a quilt. And then how are you charging for that?
Oh gosh, that is the question of the hour. I don't know. And since I don't have there's just nothing to compare this to. I just dove in, and that's what happened. I tried to pull back and do loops, and I couldn't do it because I thought, well, that's no fun. And I wanted to see, if I could make things look the way that I had them in my head. And so I just automatically go dense. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm so close to it. Maybe I need to back off. But it just happens. And so that's kind of become my style, I guess. I don't know how you balance that and how you charge for that. I'm still trying to figure that out. I have a workshop away from home that actually is just a little workspace, but so I can get away. But what I found, my daughters are older now, and so they're a little bit more self-supported. One's off at college, but the other one is about to get a driver's license. But that has kept me tethered to home. So when I'm here, I need to be home. When I'm home, I need to be here. So that was an extreme frustration at first. It was hard to balance how much I was going to get done, because when you come into your workspace, you have to kind of get acclimated and get ready to work. So that takes a while. It just takes a lot of time. And then when I get into something, I don't want to pull out. So we have eaten a lot of frozen pizzas since I started this. And so to put a price tag on that, because there is so much time involved, and you give up time with your family or time to do other things, I don't know. It's difficult. I like to kind of do a by the inch thing, because I can kind of keep control of what I'm doing. But honestly, it just depends on the quilt itself, how long it takes. So I've started doing a time tracker app, and it kind of coincides with what I would have charged. So it's coming out okay. I would like to charge more, always. But I'm in an area where the market is not here. So it just has not hit here. We are still 5 hours from Paducah, but we're in the state. But it's just a whole different style of things. We have a lot of people who, still hand quilts, or their grandmothers or great grandmothers still hand quilt, and so it's not something that, how do I say that? Machine quilting is a little bit taboo, maybe, in this area, because it's such a traditional craft. So it has not hit yet, but it will.
Okay.
And when I'm going to be here.
So it sounds like expanding and going, where you accept quilts through mail order and that kind of thing will be helpful for you.
Oh, yes, definitely. If I just want to get on the map, as far as, tends to be, North Carolina is a little bit like Kentucky, because it is still a traditional area. But, the further west you go, the more artistic and detailed the quilting is getting. And it's just very interesting. For some reason, Utah is like the Mecca. I can't wait. I want to go. So, it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things that I really want to be a part of that quilt culture, and so I want to bring that here. And I do have some customers who ask for that and who are willing to pay for that. But then I have some who just look at me like I am crazy.
Yeah, I heard recently, a kind of an elderly woman was just like, I just want my quilt quilted and I don't want it to cost $400. I mean, there is always going to be people that are on a budget that need their quilt quilted quickly and cheaply. And then there's always going to be those people that are making fantastic, amazing quilts and they need to be quilted over the top. That's what the quilt deserves.
Yes, yes. So I'm happy to work within a budget because honestly, I think no matter what it comes out like or what the quilting is like or the piecing, what went into that quilt is what makes it what it is. And so I think that's why I think that there's not been one that's left here that I didn't absolutely love because of what was behind it. And I've had some things that I've had to repair, and it's the piecing is not good or whatever. But by the time it leaves here, it's what it's intended to be, and they're wonderful. They're great. They're like parts of the family. Once you get all that done and you have this product that you can sit and enjoy. So that's the fun part.
Excellent. And do you do binding for people, or is that not a service you offer?
I don't like to do binding because, again, I have to do that on the home machine and it pulls and that's an aggravation. So I don't even like to bind my own. I'm trying to learn to love the hand binding process, but I don't. I poke myself a lot, and it's just, I don't know. I'm trying. I bought a thimble, and I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to learn to love it. I don't have a thimble. I've got a degree in clothing making, and I don't own a thimble. But, I do now. And they've changed. They're movable, so I think maybe that's going to be the key to binding. But no, normally I don't offer that as a service, but some people come in and they say just finish it on the machine, and they just want it done, like you said. Yeah. So I will do.
Absolutely. So what are some tools that you use every day on your long arm?
Oh, let's see here. A screwdriver. This particular one, I use a lot of screwdrivers to adjust tensions and things. I like to play with different threads. I use rulers. The pencils I go through, or the marking pens, I go through those like crazy. But as far as another tool, really, I don't. That's about it. That's all I really use.
And what's your favorite thread?
Okay, I started with Aurifil because I didn't know that you could quilt with something other than cotton. So I love it, but there's a lot of lint to cotton, and I was spending an absolute fortune. And I was going through that stuff. I'd go through a cone a week because I would be so detailed. And so the lady I buy it from, she was like, what are you doing? And then when I went over to the Long Arm Guild, I had taken a class that Judy Madsen had done, and they had all this glide. And I thought, oh, where's your cotton? And they said, no, we don't use cotton. We use this, because it was like $9.95 for a cone versus my $49.95. So I absolutely fell in love with glide thread. So I like that, but I really, I'm just going through the so fine too. So I'm just now experimenting and seeing what's out there. I like the 12 weight Aurifil if you want to do details on things. The back is a mess because I still can't figure the tension out, but yeah, it's okay. It looks good on the front. So for a wall hanging or something like that, don't judge the back. But those are a lot of fun. So.
And what size needle do you often use in your machine?
I don't know. Let me see. Hold on. I have it right here. I have a little thing. 16. Is that the size? Yeah. I guess that's what I know. Honestly, like I said, when I bought it, it was just, here you go. And so I just keep using whatever he brought me. The salesman came and set it up, and he said, now we're not going to leave you until you're very comfortable using this machine. We'll get you all set up. And when he left me, he didn't bring so much as a cone of thread. So I had no idea. He did bring me some batting. So I set it up on my own, and I stood here and I prayed a lot. And I thought, what am I going to do? I didn't know how to thread it. I had the manual, so I looked through the manual, and I just kind of figured it out. So as far as the real way to do things, I don't know. I don't know what needle I'm supposed to use. It's awful. It's sad. I just went straight for the finish line. So I don't know. 16, I think is my answer.
I think that's incredible. It really is incredible. So let's talk about yoga. Your Instagram account is Long Arm Yogi Gal, and that's a large reason why I checked you out and clicked your link and went and checked out your photos, because I do yoga every day, and it's a really important part of my life. So do you have a daily practice?
My daily practice is not a formal practice. It's just kind of as I need it. I want a formal practice. I have a little space at home that is so nice. I can't get the time to get down there. I don't make the time to get down there. So what I do, I did a teacher training program at, let's see, in Asheville with Leah Schwartz. She's wonderful. You can get over there. About 10 years ago, I think I did that. So I completed this 200-hour course, intending to teach, and then once I did that, I realized I am not a yoga teacher. I don't have that voice that yoga teachers, it's like magic. I don't have that. So but I learned so much, and once you train your body to know some things, that's just kind of what you do. And so my yoga practice is throughout the day. It's driving the car, it's pulling my shoulders down from my ears, or it's making sure that my heels are under my ankles, which are under my knees, hips, and all the way up, so you continually stack yourself. So that's kind of my yoga practice. At the end of the day, or while I'm cooking dinner, especially if I've been at the long arm for any amount of time, I will do some back bends or some chest openers or things like that, just because I know where I need to be. But as far as a practice that I'm diligent with, no. Someday. You put all these things off, and then it's 10 years later, and you think, well, okay, the time is now. So, yeah, I do need to focus on that I get what I need, as I need it. And it's definitely a huge part of my day, and it saves my sanity lots.
Certainly. I completely agree. So, have you ever talked to other quilters about doing yoga? Is that something that you really kind of want to share within your long arm business as well?
I had never thought about it until I got your note the other day, and I thought, there are so many books about yoga for fill in the blank. There's a yoga for runners book, which is the most incredible instruction book I've got, and I'm not a runner, but on the advice of the teacher when I was doing the teacher training course, she said, you've got to get this book because it has such great advice. Don't worry about the title. And so yeah, yoga can be, it is beneficial for anything you do throughout the day. We're such a front-bodied culture. I guess we're just front-bodied creatures, actually. But especially if you're at the computer, or if you read, or cooking, anything. And long arm is or even just sewing. If you're hand sewing, you're so forward that you kind of forget about your back body. And so that's where it brings that balance back in, physically and mentally, and the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So I use yoga every day.
Absolutely. Well, if you ever want to write that book, Yoga for Quilters, I will help out. I'd love it.
Sounds great. One of my goals on my bucket list is to write a book. So that could be it.
There you go.
And I've noticed online that there are so many similarities. Instagram's great because you can pick up on people who have common interest. And there are so many people who do the quilting and the yoga. And it's just, I don't know if maybe maybe there's no link at all, but it just seems that they coincide frequently. And it's just interesting to find so many people out there around the world, who do the things you love. And yoga and quilting are two of my tops. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I've got to give a shout out for a little app that I use every day. And it's, let's see here, Yoga Studio, I think is the name of it. I'll make sure and double check that. But basically, you can design your own classes and set them up. And then it's and you can set only 5 minutes, something like that. So I've started using that in the morning and getting up just a little earlier than my son and getting in that 15-20 minute practice. And it's made a big difference. And James the other day woke up 15 minutes early, and I hadn't got my yoga in. I said, you can go back to bed. This is my time, dude.
You have to establish that as a parent, because if you don't, it's just the whole day's shot. When I was you mentioned morning, when I was doing my teacher training, one of the requirements was we had to do pranayama. So that's the breathing exercises. And so I would do that. I'm not a morning person. One of these days, I hope someday will be a morning person, but I'm not. And my kids were probably, one was in preschool, one was in, I guess, first grade at that point, so they were little. So when they were up, and you hit the floor running. So in order to get my pranayama in, I would take 3 minutes in the morning, and I would hit my bolster, and I would do what they call, it's a 3-part breathing. It's Viloma 1, I believe is what it's called. But it's a 3-part breathing where you really go down into the depths of your lungs, and then you stretch out to the side. And 3 minutes a day made such a difference in everybody in the household. And it was so funny because my husband was like, what are you doing differently? Because there were less screaming things, and people were on time, and so many things happened and improved as a result of my 3 minutes in the morning that I took for myself. And so I would not admit that was because of me, because I thought, well, maybe I'm the one creating all this tension. And, we do that. We put that onto our kids or onto our spouses or wherever it is we're going. We tend to project anxiety and tension. So that 3 little minutes made all the difference. So any kind of stretching or yoga or breathing you can get in the morning really sets the tone for a better day, I think.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And 3 minutes is nothing, it's taking care of yourself. It's so essential. All right. So this is the last question I always ask everybody. And I'm just so delighted. I love your business and I love your quilting. And I really hope that your business continues to take off and grow. So this is the question I always ask. And that is, what are you most excited about in the next 5 years?
Okay. So I heard you ask another podcast this, and I was trying to get ready with a really good answer. But the truth is, I have no idea. My thing is this: when I look 5 years ahead, I see 5 years gone by, and that bothers me. I need to probably work on that a little bit, but right now, as it is, when I think 5 years ahead, I think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna, so much is gonna be different. So what I like to do is think 1 year ahead, and then try to expand on that. But I try to, mindfulness is one of those things in yoga, and so you just try to be mindful of the day, of the moment, of where you are right now. This is, and not be too far ahead. And maybe that's where I get that 5 year thing, and I look at my kids and I think, oh my goodness, in 5 years, one is in college, she'll be in the workforce, and I can't think that far ahead. I set a 1 year goal on April 24th to be in a show. So I want to have a quilt hanging in a show somewhere so I can wear my shoes. I have a little post on Instagram for my shoes. I get to wear those to my first show. So right now, that is kind of what I'm working toward. I'd love to get something published in a quilting magazine. So those are my 2 1 year goals. Along with building a business, I want to extend my reach a little bit. I have also a goal that I put everything on Instagram, I guess. But I have a goal to be in every state, something, whether it be a gift or just quilting or a complete item that I've made. So I think I'm in 11, and I've got my map behind me with my pens. So those are my tentative 1 year goals. 5 years, I don't know, that just scares the heck out of me. So I couldn't come up with a great answer on that one.
That's okay. We kind of go with it with how we can. And 5 years is even hard for me sometimes too. Well, I wish you luck with all of your endeavors, and I hope it goes really, really well. So let everybody know where they can find you online.
Okay. I am on Facebook as Amy's in Stitches, and I'm on Instagram at Longarm Yogi Gal. And I would love for everybody to stop by and send me a note. I love it. I love to talk to people from different areas with similar interest. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the show.
All right. Thank you for having me.
So that's it for this episode. If you'd like to find more episodes of the Hello My Quilting Friends podcast, check it out at leahday.com/podcast. We have a player that will play through all of the episodes shared so far, so you can binge listen for hours on end. Until next time, let's go quilt.